Okay, so the request was about Yom Neruam, which we just started now. Yom Neruam is a term I think I saw in Rabbeinu Yonah. I don't know if it's used before him, the coin, the awesome days. It starts with days of Elul and Rosh Hashanah, Shesh Meshuvah, and Kippur, and maybe including Sukkot also until the last day Shmini Atzeres, which will as we go on during these days. So we'll try to explain each one of them as Hashem. So Elul, sometimes people think of Elul as just like the Nuzman after the break of Ben Azmanim, which whenever it got invented. So then it's starting a Nuzman. So it's a serious man because it's coming before Rosh Hashanah, and it seems very maybe superficial or artificial. The fact that there's the Elul's man, like what is it? Is it anything that's really inherent? So you do find sources for it. It's not just a newsman and buckling down because Rosh Hashanah is coming. As far as them, they start slichas. They say slichas during the whole Elul until also Yom Kippur, and that's a series of 40 days. And that has a source. The Sport on Shulchan Aruch, and they bring sources from earlier in Hagim, what it's based on. Ashkenazim also they stop.
Why don't Ashkenazim
yes,
do it for 40 days before?
Right, so that's the grove there. In the Shulchan Aruch, the grove says what the machlokas is depending on, and it comes out. It seems that the machlokas is what is that 40 days. We know that Matan Torah was on Zion above Sivan, and that was 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu was on Har Sinai, and then they made the Egel after 40 days. So that comes out in Shabbos B'Tammuz. That's when Moshe wrote the Luchos. So that was one period of 40 days. Then you find there's another period in between from the 18th of Tammuz until Rosh Chodesh Elul, and then there's a period from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur, which also is 40 days, 39, 40. They talk about it. Not exact. It's not exactly 40, 40, 40, but the beginning is 40, and then there's from the 18th of Tammuz till the end of Av, which seems to be a bit more than 40, and then there's Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur, which seems to be 39. But there's a machlokas in the Midrashim when it says in Parshas Eikev that Moshe Rabbeinu said that I was a second time on a mountain. Well, how does it go to Pasuk? It says in Parshas Eikev, "V'asnapal l'fnei Hashem 40 yom v'arba'im laila kayamim harishonim." So when was that 40 days? So there are two different midrashim. The Rishonim, the Rosh, Ramban, have it down Rashi, and they bring down from Rav Haigon that Moshe Rabbeinu was in the mountain 3 times, and the middle, and the Psukim in Parshas Eikev are referring to the middle days that he was davening. Was Napal L'fnei Hashem that he was davening. That was in the middle 40 days, and before Rosh Chodesh Elul. And then the third time, Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur, that was in order to get Luchos Shnios after Hashem had already forgiven them. And that's when Hashem told Moshe, and come to the mountain. And that's when Moshe went for the third time from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur. The grove, it brings down in the Pirush on Chumash, Aderes Aliyo, and also the Bir Agua in the beginning of Hilchos Rosh Hashanah, that there's a Pirkei Rabbi Elazar and the Tanakh of Aliyo that say that Moshe was only on the mountain only 2 times. Means the time to get the Luchos Rishonos, so then the from Rosh Chodesh Elul to Yom Kippur, and the middle period, he was in the Machane, he was in the camp. Over there it says, Moshe Yikach Ha'oel, but not the Lo Michos L'Machaneh. Doesn't say clear when that happened. So this Medrash learns that was from after Shavuos B'Tammuz until Rosh Chodesh Elul. And in the last 30 days, that's when he went to daven for the Chet HaEgel. And Hashem, when the pasuk says "V'asnapal l'fnei Hashem," that's going on Rosh Chodesh Elul till Yom Kippur, and that was the days of Tachnunim. So the 40 days of Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur, it comes out that it's machlokes what the token of the days are. What is the essence of the 40 days from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur? And according to the other Rishonim, it's called Yimei Ratzon, that Hashem had already forgiven them, And then it's called Yemei Ratzon, that it was days of what we call Hashem favored them, Hashem was appeased, Hashem was happy with them, and that was getting the Shlucho Shniyos. And according to the other Pshat, according to the Gra, so they're called Yemei Tachnunim. They're days of the supplications, that when Moshe Rabbeinu was davening for the Kapara. Means according to some Rishonim, we got the Kapara was already given, means that Hashem already was Mochel before Rosh Chodesh Elul. And then Hashem told him to come to get the Luchos, and that was the 40 days of Rosh Chodesh Elul to Yom Kippur. It's called Yemei Ratzon. And according to the other way, according to the other Medrash, so those were the days that Moshe Rabbeinu was davening for Kapara, and the Kapara came on Yom Kippur. And then it'll be called Yemei Tachnunim. So if we may coin the two possibilities. Either it's Yemei Ratzon or it's Yemei Tachnunim. Comes out.
The Ashkenaz are just doing it a bit later. They're also doing it.
Ashkenaz doing what a bit later?
Slichos, they do it 4 days before Rosh Hashanah.
Right. So then the Gra goes to explain why should it be 4 days before Rosh Hashanah, and he talks about why should that be. Some say that different Shatim, the Gra says it has to do with the day of Riyas HaOlam, that even though Rosh Hashanah, that's when Adam Rishon was created, but the world was created on Chav Hei Elul, 25th of Elul, and on the 6th day was when Adam Rishon was created. So Hayom Haras Olam doesn't mean the birthday of the world, but it's going to mean this question what Haras Olam, if it means whatever that's the question what that means, but not that that's when the world was created on Rosh Hashanah. The world was created on the 25th of Elul, and Adam Rishon was created on Rosh Hashanah. And he has a cheshbon over there why the Ashkenazim say Slichos only those four days or sometimes more. It's not from the beginning of the week. That's the beginning. As the creation was started on a Sunday. There's another cheshbon why the Slichos of the Ashkenazim, why that minhag is to start from the Sunday before Rosh Hashanah with a minimum of 4 days, and if not, then start the week before. So it comes out that there are two Gedarim, two pshatim on what the days of Elul are. So just step out a second, that it's not called a preparation for Rosh Hashanah. That's what it seems like. It seems to be a 40 days from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur. That seems to be the pashas, that it's not 30 days of buckling down before Rosh Hashanah, and that will be very superficial and just like Malachuti, man-made, that we just got good zman, 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, but it has some essence, just like Yom Kippur was the day of Slicha that Hashem forgave the Egel, and that's why it was established to be a day of forgiveness for all generations. So too, the 40 days before that also have a connection to it. And again, there's a machlokes if it's Yemei Ratzon, if that's the Hagdara, or it's called the Yemei Tachnunim, in the days that the Moshe Rabbeinu was davening, and Hashem answered the prayer, and we were forgiven on Yom Kippur. Okay, so that's one point. Everybody knows the siman that they say Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, that is Rosh Tevis, is a pasuk in Shir HaShirim, Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, and Rosh Tevis is Elul. It's a siman, but of course it's not going to be that's the source of the whole thing. The source is more like we're saying now, that there was something inherent in those 40 days. I have from Rav Pesach Danziger, whoever knows him, I think everybody knows him over here. So I have something that he wrote there many years ago, that this number 40 doesn't just seem to be something haphazard. It's something inherent about 40. He gives a few examples, and he says there are many more. There are 40 days for Yitziras of Vlad, from the time of conception until the fetus is considered a fetus. Before that, it's considered Maya Ba'alma. It's not even considered a being yet. So that's called 40 days of Yitziras of Vlad. And Moshe Rabbeinu was in the mountain 40 days, like we said. The Meraglim went to see Eretz Yisrael 40 days, which was supposed to be good, but they didn't use it well. But you see also the 40 days, the 40 years that Am Yisrael was in the Midbar because of the 40 days. And the marvel you find was for 40 days, even in the destructive way also. And Noah opened up to Pesach HaTeva after 40 days. Nineveh was 40 days. So what is all these 40s? It seems something to be inherent. So he says, he doesn't go into the Kabbalah, what might be behind it, but he says that every new creation is a 40-day period. To make something new, like Yitziras Avlad, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was coming to give the Luchos, and when there was a chance that then basically the tshuva, or there was going to be a destruction, maybe there's going to be also destructive. So it's a 40-day process. That's what it seems to be. So he was suggesting that the 40 days that we have now from Rosh Chodesh Elul till Yom Kippur is supposed to be a process of creation. We're creating ourselves. We're doing tshuva. We're asking for life from Hashem. There's a process going on. It's a 40-day process, which seems to have a lot of truth to it. It seems like something's ringing over there. That also, what I said also that the 40 days has something to do with the 40 days Moshe Rabbeinu was in the mountain. So there's something essential over there. And why was Moshe Rabbeinu 40 days? It probably also wasn't just incidental. It probably was something better. Hashem told Moshe to come for 40 days. So not just that happened to be that amount. Happened that's the time you needed it because it happened to have 40 days. It was something 40 be'etzem. There's a number 40. So just to take the 40 days as something that has essence to it, meaning to it, if it's going to be a May Ratzon or it's going to be a May Tachnunim, that's how Elul is supposed to be utilized. What are we supposed to do during these days? So just to contrast how sometimes it's understood, and I heard from Rabbi Shlomo Zilberman that's a mistake. People look at it at a time as buckling down and being serious and to be more frum during Elul. So is that true? People feel a kind of hypocrisy from it because they know that after it's over, and it's very, 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 very bad when people at Motzei Yom Kippur they give a sigh of relief and say Baruch Hashem is all over, and now we can get down to regular living. That's terrible. It's terrible. If people have that kind of feeling of Motzei Yom Kippur, I think that it's a sign that the whole 40 days was not utilized correctly, and there's a big pain in that. It's supposed to be a building time and not no hypocrisy. So Rabbi Shlomo Zilberman said that the time of Elul is not that you're becoming more from people. You're supposed to be from the whole year, and there's a mistake that there's something about being extra from more. There is going to be, I'll say in a second, there is some source of that, but it's taken out of proportion. It's supposed to be, people do more introspection during this time, but there's a difference how you do the introspection. If you do it, that I'm just doing it now, and then it's all going to be over after Motzei Yom Kippur, so then it's come out a waste of time. It has to be Zehirus and Zerizus, but the Mesilas Yesharim talks about, he's not talking about during Elul. Zehirus is supposed to be an ongoing thing. You have to do it, like Rabbi Shlomo said, you have to do it Kislev, you have to do it Nisan, you have to do it Hanukkah. It has nothing to do with Elul. It's not more Zehirus and Zerizus during Elul. If everybody here knows what Zehirus and Zerizus is, of the Mesilas Yesharim, that a person is supposed to be careful and watchful and introspection, and both in Mitzvahs Lo Saseh, Mitzvahs Saseh. The whole state of the Mesilas Yesharim doesn't mention the word Elul, doesn't mention Aseret Shmei Tshuva, has nothing to do with that. It has to do with living. A person has to constantly be growing, and the beginning of growth is always to be conscious of what he's doing, and the Mesilas Yesharim teaches how to do that. So that's not the avoda of Elul. The avoda of Elul is not Zehirus. The Zehirus is supposed to be the whole year. But Elul, the point of Elul and the whole 40 days, the whole process from Rosh Chodesh until Yom Kippur is all about tshuva. And tshuva is different than zehirus. Zehirus means that a person is constantly being careful and finding out what's right and what's wrong and living accordingly. And it's a process. It's a constant process. A person grows more and more and goes on to zerizus, nikiyos, precious, tara. And at any point, even at the point of kedusha, a person is also doing zehirus and zerizus. It doesn't stop. Anybody that learns Mesilas Yesharim will know that the zehirus is a lifetime issue. And once a person gets the art of zehirus, then whenever he continues growing on the ladder, so he's going to be a zohir, and then a zohir in precious, a zohir in tara, a zohir in kedusha. Any level that he's on, you have to be a zohir. Zohir means that he thinks what he's doing, but his level becomes much higher, and therefore he's zohir on a much higher level. But the word zehirus means that a person is conscious of what he's doing. He thinks, he does introspection, cheshbon nefesh, the way the Mesilas Yesharim says, and that's an ongoing process. That a person maybe is supposed to be aroused to get back to it during Elul, yes, but not that he stops on Motzei Yom Kippur, surely not. It's supposed to be the beginning, but there's a thing called tshuva, and the tshuva is not a contradiction that it's specified to a certain time of the year. Means if zehirus would be only a certain time of the year, then it's hypocrisy. Then people feel, what am I doing? I'm becoming a big tzaddik, and I know that tomorrow I'm not going to be that anymore. That's hypocrisy. But if a person sets aside a certain amount of time, and it's not that he's setting it aside himself, it's something that's a time which is tshuva is more accepted. So there's a time that he more focuses on tshuva. That's not a contradiction that the rest of the year is not. And what does tshuva mean? That a person is focusing on the past and he's regretting and remorse of the mistakes that he made. Of course, it means that he has to have the intention of fixing it up, but that's an ongoing process. That a person, maybe when he does this tshuva, then he's going to make a plan of how to continue growing constantly the whole year. But the focus that is on, it's going to be during Elul, is going to be more on the regret and the remorse of what he had messed up before, and spurred on to do better. Any questions so far, or any comments, remarks, anything?
It seems like Yom Kippur is more of a day of tshuva. It's even called Yom Slicha. And Rosh Hashanah, maybe the world today, people talk about tshuva, but there's something to do more with Hamlachas Kadosh Baruch Hu. I was wondering if we could say that Rosh Hashanah is more of a general, it's a tshuva of Kadosh Baruch Hu. I drifted so far from you. I want to come back to your Malchus. But maybe Yom Kippur will be more of a pratyistic type of tshuva.
When we get to Rosh Hashanah, we'll talk about it. I don't know if the Agdara of Rosh Hashanah is the coronation. The people talk to be Mamlech Hashem. I don't know what they mean, and I'm not sure if that's the correct Agdara. Rosh Hashanah is the time that Hashem is Mechadesh, the Anhaga for the coming year. We'll get to that more in detail when we get the coming weeks. But Rosh Hashanah is the Yom Hadin, Yom HaMishpat, the day, but not the way people look at it, that it's a day of judgment, that everybody's invited to the court for their trial, in a way that we think of a court case, that someone did something wrong, and the question is how bad is he, and how much punishment is he going to get, and the whole subject is the past. That's the difference. I think it's the wrong mashal, the wrong attitude towards Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is not the day of judgment of the past, it's more the day of judgment for the future, which means what is going to be the Hanhaga for the coming year. Of course, one of the factors that are taken into consideration of what's going to be in the coming year is what he did in the past. That's one of the factors, but that's not the Hagdara. I hope I'm not sure if I'm being clear. That of course the past is taken into consideration by the judgment, but the point is not the judgment. The difference would be, I think, that one marshal is the courthouse, with his trial on people that had sinned in the past, how to judge them, how to punish them, or even could say how to reward them. But in a case, okay, that's not our courts, but if there would be such a court. But it's more, I think the marshal would be when a king is coming into power or into office, a new party is voted in, and now they're deciding how to make their government for the coming year. Who's going to have which position and which jobs, which authority, which powers, and that is a very awesome thing. How much power the government is being given, and who's getting power, and what's going to be his place in the new system. So there's also a big judgment over there, a big judgment happening over there. But the Hagdara, and of course it's based on what each person might have done during the past. But the Hagdara, the definition of what's happening, is not judging the past as much as the Anhag of the future. And the kingship of Hashem is what's happening on Rosh Hashanah as far as establishing the kingdom for the coming year. And the Ramchal talks about that, since that's an opportunity to daven for the Hanhag of the coming year. So it's opportunity to daven that Hashem's kingdom should come out in its whole sense, its whole perfection. That Hashem Melech Al Kol is not just for the coming year, but for eternity. And the whole plan, Hashem should come to fruition in the plan that Hashem had made the world for, that He should rule. And the ruling of Hashem is the best benefit. It means it's our benefit. People sometimes look at the ruling of Hashem as except some kind of a Baruch Dayan Emes kind of thing, which is the wrong attitude completely. It's supposed to be that that's the person supposed to realize that the kingship of Hashem is the best thing that could be for us. And davening that He should rule, giving Him power. And same way, when there's elections and we vote somebody in, so Hashem's kingship, He made to depend on how much we want it. And our davening and our masim all are contributing to how strong Hashem's kingdom is going to be. So we're building the kingship, the government, so to speak, Hashem's government for the coming year. And it's also tefillah in the davening about Hashem's kingship for eternity. Ramchal talks about that, and we'll bring down the sources later when we get to Rosh Hashanah. It is interesting what you said, that I'm talking about that Elul is not a 30-day period until Rosh Hashanah, but it's a 40-day period until Yom Kippur, which seems to be from the sources, that's the way it is. And notice that Aseret Shemei Tshuva comes right there, and the Rosh Hashanah is also part of that Aseret Shemei Tshuva. It's a time of Chidush, that we're renewing ourselves, and Hashem is renewing the year, and it all goes together, that when a person is doing Tshuva, and the tshuva has to do something with what's going to be in the coming year, that Hashem is, we're coming back to get ourselves in the right direction. First of all, there's a Yom Kapara, and it could have been theoretically, so to speak, you could look at it as two systems that happen to overlap. Of course, it's not true. Of course, it's not just happening to overlap, but it's a system of 40 days to Yom Kippur that you had over there by Har Sinai that didn't have a Rosh Hashanah in between. Of course, there's a Rosh Hashanah by us in between, but there is a system of 40 that goes from Rosh Chodesh Elul till Yom Kippur. Of course, we have to understand how Rosh Hashanah fits in, and it's part of the system also. But I think that the issue is tshuva, that the issue of Elul as a whole, and Aseret Shemei Tshuva and the whole 40 is the issue of tshuva. And tshuva, not meaning that we do tshuva now and then we forget about it, but the azhirus would be year-round, constant, and a person maybe can get started during these days, but starting without stopping, that it continues forever. But the ikar would be the charata. That seems to be that a person, how much he regrets not going in the right path and for the mistakes that he made and starting over. There's a point that I just heard recently from Rabbi Miller, in the name of Rabbi Miller, and it's surely very true. The Rambam says so, and it's a very important point that people sometimes they focus on tshuva on the technicalities, means on the specific averus of the actions, which of course is very important. That's what the Torah mitzvahs. But there's much more that a person has to do tshuva for. And that's not the specific actions, but the whole attitude of his life, his deos, his midos, his feelings. It means the whole person. It's not just the issue of actions, of specific mitzvahs aseh, mitzvahs lo aseh, but there's the whole person. It recalls a little bit the Mesilas Yesharim about in the beginning, the whole Hakdama, where he talks about that it's not just a question of doing mitzvahs. There's the whole avodas Hashem of Ava and Yira and Veikus and Taras Alev, Midas Tovos. There's so much. And if a person just focuses, if he did something, he didn't do something, he's missing out on a lot. It has to be that a person is making an overhaul on his whole being. Of course, the overhaul doesn't mean that in these days he makes the overhaul and he becomes a changed person in a matter of days. That surely doesn't work. And that's what I was trying to say before, that a person has to do it the whole year. It's a process that goes on and on. If a person becomes a sudden change during these days, it doesn't hold. It's going to become a sudden change back again. A person can't change so fast. Midos and all these things, the attitudes, it takes time. It's a process of living and continuously growth. But the point that we could do is to refocus ourselves and the remorse and regret that we have for what we did not do, and get rejuvenating the direction that we want to get ourselves towards the goal, to go towards Hashem and coming back home. Someone had whatever the mashal he used, the mashal of the king or the son who was thrown out, vanished, and he's coming back, and he's shamed, and he's embarrassed to knock on the father's door after he had wronged so much. And the father is waiting on the other side of the door, and the son is embarrassed to knock, and then he finally does, and he's crying, and the father's crying, and they hug each other. That's Elul. That's Rosh Hashanah. That's tshuva. That's the person coming back. How he has to fix up the particular things that he did. That's everything has to be taken in time, and there's a recuperation and rejuvenation, rehabilitation, all that. But the fact that he wants to come back, that's the outpour of emotion that's supposed to happen during these days, that a person wants to come back to Hashem. Most people don't do tshuva. Yosef Shlomo used to say this, and he had a right from Mishnah in the that it's halachically it's called nolad. Over there it talks about a Mishnah. It's a scary thing. that over there the Mishnah says, if someone made a neder, is he allowed to make have a charata to be mata neder, to undo the neder? And there's an issue about nola. There's something which wasn't expected. Usually, how does charata go? If I would have known, I would not have made the neder. And there's a concept called nolad over there, that if it was something to change, was something unexpected, he can't say, if I would have known, I wouldn't have made the neder, because it's something that's so far-fetched, even if he would have thought about it, he would not have taken into consideration. Anyway, over there it says that a person said, I'm not going to marry this and this girl because her father is Russian. And then he did tshuva. So could he come and say that I only made the neder because I thought that he was a Russia, but not, because he was a Russia. But now that he did tshuva, I didn't mean to make the neder. Over there, the Mishnah says that it's called nolad. So what does nolad mean? That it's unexpected. Most people don't do tshuva. It's a very scary thing. And I don't want to say to be Muhammad Chov and anybody on Am Yisrael, but that's the question. When people they go through Yom Kippur, the whole process of the 40 days, that they come out different. So it's scary to think that people don't. They more or less go back to the same way that they were, and they go through the slichas and the al-chait, but it was their real tshuva over there. So the Sifrei Musa are bothered by this problem. People are bothered by it, that they feel like hypocrites each year goes through. We're going through Elul again, and we know at the end it's going to be the same thing. So they have all kinds of shatlach. The word shatlach means not shatim, shatlach, and vetlach, that are not really true, to explain what the purpose of all that is, if it's not really serious. So all the shatlach are not true. It's not really true. Of course, whatever people do is accepted. Hashem wants everybody to whatever they could. But to say that it's real tshuva, it seems that it's not. If people go back to what they were before and they don't have any real change, so we can't call it tshuva. And a person should try to be truthful with himself, and that his tshuva should be a real tshuva, to really making decisions of starting again, and the process not going to be that he does overhaul in those days again, but he's going on a path, and he has remorse over the mistakes that he had made before, the wrong path, not only the technicalities that he made a mistake, was that also, but the whole direction was he focused on the right way, and or the wrong, what was he focused on? And that's a real tshuva, that's a real overhaul. And a person, it's not conscious that a person does it every year, because that's what happens, that a person is always, in other words, every year is not supposed to be that he goes back to the same thing again. He makes up and he goes down again. The next year he goes up, then he goes down to the same place. It's always going to be going up. And then during the year, whatever happens, but he's not going down to the same place. And next year is going higher and higher and higher. It's supposed to be that a person is continuously growing, and each year he's not doing tshuva on the same things that he did the year before. That's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that if he's doing tshuva, he's doing tshuva on things that the year before he didn't even think of those things. Like that wasn't even on his list. And now he got on a higher level, and now he's doing tshuva for things that now he's holding on that level and he's getting higher. It's supposed to be a continuous higher. Of course, it doesn't mean straight up. Of course, a person has ups and downs, but it's not supposed to be up and down always to the same place. It's not a yo-yo. It's supposed to be that he's going up, and then he gets to a level that on that level he's making mistakes, and then from there he goes higher, and at that level, but it has to be a continuous growth process.
Is there anything besides for Cheshbon and Nefesh, Mesilas Shalom talks about, that everybody should be doing? Just think about the actions. B'shas Ma'aseh, B'shas Ma'aseh, is that the idea? How to do tshuva?
That's not the Elul. That's the whole year round. That's the whole year round, right?
Yeah.
What you mentioned now is the whole year round. So Zirus is a big issue, and we could talk about it. It's not really dedicated to Elul because it's supposed to be the whole year round, but it definitely is a good thing to do to start during Elul. But the point is to continue, that it's continue the whole year round. I've written a booklet, I'm not sure if anybody has it, about this issue of Zihirus, and it has some suggestions how to do it. A person should be recording. I think you have to have some kind of an accounting. What Mesilas Shalom over there talks about Zihirus, so he says that a person has to have two issues. One is to clarify what's right and what's wrong, what's the right path. Not only mitzvahs, but what is he supposed to be doing in life? What does he picture the right thing? What is he supposed to do? What's the right derech? And then the second step is, am I doing it? It means it's so simple, but people don't take that simplicity. Everyone thinks that I already know what's right, that doesn't not doing it. And the Mesilas Shalom says, no, it's a mistake. Most people, their mistake is that they don't know what's right and what's wrong because they didn't give it much thought. and everybody's still living on the barometer of what they think as a child, a 5-year-old, what's right and what's wrong. They never really are updating their set of values, what's right and what's wrong. And there's supposed to be a big avoda. The Mesilas Yesharim, if you look between the lines, his main complaint, his main campaign is that people don't know what's right and what's wrong. They don't give it any thought. And he makes that's supposed to be a big part of a person's abode is supposed to be always clarifying what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing. And it's not only learning halachas, of course, that's supposed to be his learning. He's also supposed to include that, but his deos, his midos, his attitudes, his beliefs. And just happened to be in the kollel, the yeshiva over here by Deres Elio. So we've been doing Mesilas Yesharim. Every week, there was a Seder Mesilas Yesharim in the kollel, and it went already for many years. It's over 10 years already. And we did already 3 machzorim, 3 cycles. And we started doing the 4th cycle around last year. It's probably a year already. And then we got up Hanukkah time. We came to the issue of this issue of Zehirus, what Zehirus is. And it came out that it's this point of Hashkafa Rishona, Hashkafa Shniya. The first thing is to clarify what's right and what's wrong. And then the second Hashkafa is, what am I doing? What am I doing? Am I doing what I know? And somebody got up and he said, Rabbi Sai, we're fooling ourselves. We're learning Mesilas Yesharim again and again and again, but we're not doing it. It's like reading the prescription of the doctor. We're not filling it out, not taking it to the pharmacy and taking it. So he said, are we doing this? Are we doing Hashkafa Rishona? Are we clarifying right and wrong? And because of that, the whole Mesilas Yesharim say this changed in the yeshiva since Hanukkah, and we don't do Mesilas Yesharim now. And we're doing what we're doing, more or less what we're doing now in our chavura now on Monday night. So it's clarifying different subjects, and a person has to get his deos right. So subject, takes a couple of weeks each subject, but there's a focus on what's right and what's wrong. And then a person also has to, of course, translate that into small change. What does that mean in my personal life after he gets to Yesodos, and then to see how he's doing. Is he doing it or not? That's a shkafa shniya. So all that is very important, and it is a good time to start. Maybe we could work on it next week if you want to. But that's a whole year. That's not only for Elul, that's supposed to continue the whole year round. And Elul is supposed to be... Yes, please.
No, I'm just asking, is there anything special for Elul? I think Rabbi was saying now. Yeah.
So I think the point is the tachnunim, and also the tachnunim, and the tshuva. And the tshuva doesn't mean the zehirus. The tshuva means the charata. There's charata, there's kabbalah laba, but that's what the tshuva is. The actual working on it, that's continuous. The mashal we said is mashal that somebody is down in a bore that's 1,000 steps deep, and he wants to get out of the bore. And he looks up, he says, 1,000 steps, I can't do this. How much can I do? How much can I do? So he says, all I could do is, whatever I could do now, right now. So he takes a couple of steps and he says, okay, I did what I could do. But he's not getting any place. The other one is that person says, I want to be out of the bore. And he closes his eyes and he says, I'm out of the bore. But he's also not out of the bore. He's also not where he is. That's how people do during Aseret Shmei during Elul. What do? Some people, they say, I'm a tzaddik. I'm going to be a tzaddik. And that's it. But he's not a tzaddik. You can't make yourself a tzaddik in overnight. It doesn't happen. The other thing is that people, they say, I'm going to do a little. That's the modern way of calming ourselves, that do a little. I'm sure you heard these drushes that they say, do a little bit, the bench from a right bench from a Berachas Hamazon. Every year people are doing the same thing. They make a Kabbalah. What's your Kabbalah? I'm going to bench from Berachas Hamazon. Because Rav Shach once made that Kabbalah, so that became famous. That's Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is to make a new resolution. What are you going to do? You're going to bench from a bench. That's not tshuva. That's not tshuva. So they just took up, one step. They took up 2 steps, and they didn't get out of the bore. What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to make a solid resolution that I'm going to continue getting up step by step till I get out of the bore. It might take a month. It might take a year. It might take 5 years, but I'm getting out of here. And he starts someone has a big chov. He has a big debt, and the 2 choices are: I'm going to pay, or I'll pay. I'm going to pay. He owes a huge amount of money. He doesn't have. He has $10 in his pocket. What's he going to do? So he said, "I'll give you the $10. This is what I have. That much he is." So also, that's not called tshuva. You owe thousands of dollars. Why are you going to pay $10? If a person says, "I'm going to get a job. I'm going to be able to save up every week, whatever, $100, and then after this amount of time, I'll give you $1,000. Then I'll give you another $1,000 till I pay up the whole chov." that's cool that he's doing tshuva for his mistake. So the tshuva that we do during Elul is supposed to be the hachlata, the decision that I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to make changes that are going to be everlasting. And the charata means there has to be, if a person comes and says, even if the point of doing tshuva without charata would be that the person, he did a terrible thing and he said, I won't do it again. But you don't see it like, Rabbi Shlomo gave a mashal that somebody has been banging on, every night he's been banging on his, he has a hobby, he builds shelves at night, 2:00 in the morning, and he wakes up all the neighbors. And people always ask him, he ignored everybody. And one day he comes to everybody to the building, he says, I'm not going to do it anymore. That's not enough. He did terrible, if he doesn't show that he has remorse for what he did in the past, that's not accepted. People are not accepted, they don't accept him. It's very nice, he shouldn't have done it the whole time, so at least not doing it anymore. But the fact that he doesn't show remorse for what he did, they're not forgiven. Of course he shouldn't continue doing it. Of course he should stop doing it. Just because he did it till now is not a reason to continue doing bad. But the point of Charot is that he's referring back to the past and saying that the bad that I did, I have remorse for. I hope it's a little clarity. I hope that I can't. Okay, Ashikoch, we continue next week again. And if anyone has any suggestions during the week, please let me know so we can incorporate it into next week's talk. Ashikoch, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.